Having played both Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, I really wanted to enjoy Marvel's Spider-Man 2. However, there are just some glaring issues. First off, I was able to complete the game in far under 200 hours, and as there were only 2 playable characters throughout this game, there was no real reason to go back as there weren't 500 different outcomes for every scenario that played out throughout the game's story. Therefore, I am sad to say that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is just not... What's that? We're not comparing every game to Baldur's Gate 3. Oh, well, in that case, Marvel Spider-Man 2 is an amazing game and should absolutely be on your games to play in 2023. I'm going to try to keep this video as spoiler free as possible. However, there will be one section where I just simply can't hold back and have to go in full spoiler mode, but I will give you a heads up before I start giving away spoilers so that you can easily skip to the next part of the video and remain spoiler free. First off, this game is absolutely gorgeous and is not ashamed to admit it. As you are swinging around the city, you will see that the frame rate in this game never drops once. I remained at a consistent 60 frames per second on performance mode on PS5, and no matter how many visuals were on the screen, no matter how many NPCs, enemies, buildings, sunlight, sunsets, whatever, this game remains consistent all the way through. It almost became a running joke at one point where I started to feel like the game was always either in sunset or sunrise mode, but because it was so gorgeous to look at, I genuinely didn't care. So many times I would stop what I was doing and just perch myself on a tall building and just stare off into the sun, as it made for just such gorgeous visuals that really shows the power of the PlayStation 5 and the love and attention that has been put into this game by Insomniac. Okay, this view sucks. This view is terrible. I hate this. This just makes me so angry. An ugly looking game. These birds and everything, ew, gross. While there are so many things for the player to do, you could honestly just get lost swinging through the city and admiring the visuals and all the detail that is put into New York City. Just like in the last 2 games, the combat is absolutely fluid, and Insomniac does a great job of making the combat in Marvel Spider-Man 2 feel like you are actually playing as Spider-Man. Whereas it easily could have just been a simple button mash, punch, kick game. They really add a lot of the athleticism that you would expect from Spider-Man himself. Whether it be flips, cool moves, the punches, the kicks, the swinging combat, it all comes together to make you feel like you are genuinely in control of the real Spider-Man. Because he is real, just like Santa Claus. Fight me. On top of just like your standard combos that you unlock as you level up your character, you also get different abilities and different gadgets that you can use to help you in your fight. A lot of my favorite abilities were more of the AoE attacks to help you with the sort of bigger mobs of enemies that you'll sometimes come to face. Some of them will group up to you together. Other times there'll be groups of enemies on the ground, but maybe some ranged bad guys off in the distance. But the thing that makes the abilities and the gadgets so great is that you're not in trouble if, say, they are on a cooldown. It's never to the point where I felt if I didn't have my abilities, I wouldn't be able to defeat the enemies that were being thrown to me at a time. They simply add to the combat and the versatility of Spider-Man, opposed to making you solely rely on them and causing a sort of wait around and stall for time while your abilities charge back up so that you can finish the fight. They're absolutely not necessary and just make the game so much better. Also being expanded upon in this are the finishers from the first 2 Marvel Spider-Man games, but a fun thing that they do in this is when the 2 characters are teaming up, they have these kind of combo finishers that are extremely stylish to look at and really fun to pull off. They play into both the athleticism and the style of each character's combat, while also adding in their personality, which really makes these tag team finishers shine. One little frustrating thing with the combat is the camera. It's very rare. It's not like a regular thing, but occasionally in the more close, tight-knit spaces, it can get stuck maybe behind a wall or an obstacle that can make you kind of lose control of Spider-Man or make it hard to see where certain enemies are, so they'll be able to get like cheap shots in on you. It's frustrating when it happens, but it was not consistent enough where it was an overall detriment to the enjoyability of the game. Swinging and traveling through the city is once again an absolute blast, whether you're using your web to fly around or the new web wings to glide through the city. Makes for traversal so fun, and you could honestly just get lost for hours just swinging around and trying to find cool little hidden secrets or little hidden events around the city.
I didn't know there were bears in these woods. Okay, before we get down to business, there's something I have to tell you. I'm fresh out of honey.
The story in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 continues from the story set up in both Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Also, there is one segment that plays off the DLC from Marvel's Spider-Man. I unfortunately never got a chance to play the DLC, so I was a little confused as it doesn't really clear up what happened in those events, but I don't blame the game for that. That's simply my own fault. We see Peter is struggling and still dealing with the tragedy of losing Aunt May, while also having to keep up and balance the responsibilities of being Spider-Man and protecting New York City. Peter has MJ as his only sort of support system, but the unfortunate reality is that as MJ also has her own life, she can't be there to lift Peter up all the time. On the flip side of that, we also have Miles Morales, who is trying to balance the responsibilities of Spider-Man. His family and his friends are around him, so he has a bigger support system than, say, Peter. But while Miles is not necessarily ignoring them or trying to put them aside, he is inadvertently prioritizing Spider-Man over them. So for Miles, he is still having to learn how to properly balance being both the new Spider-Man and growing up and becoming the man that he wants to be. As we get into the game, the symbiote suit eventually takes control of Peter, and the symbiote suit starts to feed off of the anger and the fear that has been growing in Peter since losing Aunt May.
No.
He's mine.
You sure? He's got big teeth.
So do I.
Uh-oh.
He's not normally like that, right?
No.
We see Peter almost slowly start to give in to this anger, give in to this hate, and we see Peter's personality start to slowly shift to a more venomous personality. And as the symbiote starts to learn from the host that it's attached to, we slowly start to see throughout the game, when Peter has the symbiote suit, that the symbiote is starting to form its own personality and its own person.
Where is he?
I'm an angry Spider-Man. Before finally becoming, which is my favorite part of the game, Venom. Now, this is the section where I said there will be spoilers, so if you do not want any spoilers or have not played the game yet yourself, go to the chapter list down below and you can skip right past this section and remain spoiler free. Venom is the absolute best part of this game, and I am not shocked by that in any way, shape, or form. If you're paying attention, you can figure out pretty quickly in the game who is going to become Venom, but that does not make it any less cool when you finally see the transformation of Peter's lifelong friend Harry turning into Venom.
We are not, Harry. We are.
I was completely caught off guard when you actually got to play as Venom when he fully transforms into him, and I wish they would just make an entire game, or I'll even settle for a DLC where I can just play as Venom and run around the streets of New York City. Smashing through the Oscorp building as Venom was the absolute most fun I had playing this entire game. His abilities are great, his combat is great, and you feel like a giant hulking Venom with how strong he was, how fast he was, how far he can jump. He was just an absolute monster. And I know I'm just repeating myself, but please give me a Venom game, please. Please, it was that awesome. But also what makes Venom so great in this game is how they handle his story. They really play on the duality of Peter and Harry's mission of healing the world. Harry and Peter are creating this foundation together to help heal the world, as they have both suffered loss, one with Harry's mother and Peter with Aunt May, and they want to make the world a better place by healing it. However, when Harry becomes Venom, he is still trying to heal the world, but he is doing Venom's own interpretation of healing the world. It really shows you the kind of light and dark side, the yin and the yang, how one person's version of healing the world can be completely different from someone else's version of healing the world. You even see very brief moments of Harry still being inside Venom, even though the symbiote has more or less taken over both Harry's personality and his body. Having learned how to feed off the fear and anger that was present in Peter, this symbiote does the exact same thing with Harry and is able to feed off of Harry's struggles and use them to further his version of healing the world. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 does such an amazing job of making it so Venom isn't just like another bad or another big strong guy that Peter and Miles have to deal with on a physical basis. There is a much more emotional and personal story being told that just makes the Venom character so much better. We're used to seeing Venom be part of Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock is not even present in this game unless there's like an Easter egg somewhere that maybe I missed. But switching it from Eddie to Harry just adds such a huge personal weight to the story of both Peter and Venom that it makes this iteration of Venom one of my absolute favorites that I've ever seen. This guy wants another high five. Oh. Well, never mind. It's escalating here. As for things that I didn't necessarily like in this game, they're honestly pretty minor. Once again, you do have various missions where you play as MJ. They are better than they were in the first one, but maybe this is just a personal choice for me. I still didn't really enjoy them all that much. Luckily, they're not overly long, but every time I was forced to play as MJ, it just kind of felt like the fun combat and the fun fast swinging through New York City was just brought down to a very slow crawl that just seemed very disjointed from the pace of the game that had been established for pretty much the entire game. I understand they probably kind of want you to feel and sympathize more with MJ, but I felt like I was able to do it without playing as her, and they just weren't really my favorite sections. You also have a section where you play as Haley, who is Miles Morales's friend, but I didn't really mind that one as much because as far as I can recall, it was just a one-off, so not really that big of a deal. I can't believe that board didn't support us. That cat is like, what is wrong with you? And lastly, there can be minor bugs that pop up here and there, which can be frustrating as they do force you to reload a checkpoint. So you could lose some progress maybe in a battle that you were in, or maybe you were struggling with. They're not frequent enough where it was a severe problem, but when it does happen, it can just be kind of annoying. Splish splash. If this was a game on the NES, I would have just unalived learning. Overall though, I think Insomniac did an incredible job with Marvel's Spider-Man 2. The combat is fun. Visually, this game is beautiful. The story is fantastic. Venom is such an amazing character and so fun, and I'm repeating it again. Please give us a Venom game, DLC, whatever. I just want to play as Venom. He is just so great. They do such a great job with his character, and overall, this game is an incredible experience that you should absolutely play. If you do not have a PS5 and you have to wait for the hopeful PC version, fair enough, but get your hands on this game as soon as you can, because you will not regret swinging through the streets of New York City in Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Thanks for watching.